as I say. First of all, let me welcome back our councillors who were with us the last time, and a particular welcome to our new councillors. You will enjoy this board. We have a fun time. First of all, apologies.
Well, Elise.
Chair, I have a few apologies as well. The two MSYPs, the members of the Scottish Youth Parliament, none of the two of them can make it today. That is Emma and Shafa. Apologies from Gabby Mitas and also from Tom Harton and Councillor Fisher.
Okay. Minutes of the previous meeting. First of all, for accuracy. Any points on accuracy? No? Can I have a proposer and seconder, please? Willie Goldie? Yep. Anybody else? Now get your name on the board. I need a second hand up. Gerard. Right. Matters arising that are not going to be dealt with as far as the agenda is concerned. When we went through this, I don't think we identified anything that won't be getting brought up tonight. Am I correct in assuming that? Yep. Community matters. The first thing on the community matters agenda tonight is for the community groups. Anybody from the community groups want to gain a spot?
Yeah, Cumbernauld Community Forum. We're holding our gala day on the 11th of June.
Okay. Anybody else? Nope. Okay, the one thing we have on the agenda is fair trade from John Slavin from the North Lanarkshire Fair Trade Steering Group. John?
It's James Slavin.
Sorry, James.
That's
My
okay.
apologies, sir.
No problem at all.
I rose by any other name.
Thank you for the opportunity of saying a few words about fair trade. I won't take up too much time, but basically I'm hoping to go on to the Cumbernauld Community Board meeting next week and pretty much, you know, repeat the same message there, just so that you're all in the picture. So as Alex said, I'm from the Cumbernauld the North Lanarkshire Fair Trade Steering Group. And you'll know that 2 years ago, we achieved fair trade status as a council. We were a little bit behind the curve at the time when we applied. There was only 5 out of the 32 councils didn't have fair trade status, but we have it now, I'm glad to say. And the group continues to meet regularly. And really, my reason for being on tonight is I'm asking for the support of this group here to start the ball rolling towards possibly Cumbernauld making an application to be a fair trade town, similar to Airdrie and Motherwell locally. And it's kind of filling a gap with the North Lanarkshire having fair trade status. Many of our schools and faith organisations have fair trade status too. So I wondered, you know, about the possibility of us making that application. And I wondered as well if anything similar had been brought to this group or similar groups before. I can say a little bit more, but I'll maybe just ask that question first.
Are we interested, folks? Yes? Councillor Barclay.
Thanks, Alec. I think I was part of the team that worked with James to get the fair trade up and running within North Lanarkshire, to make sure that, like, for the council to submit it, the team from the council worked excuse me, really hard, and thanks to James and others for to get. So I support this wholeheartedly. This would be a really good initiative if we could get this sorted, get this done.
Okay, anybody else?
Chair, I think Anne Ballinger, sorry if I've said that wrong, I think had her hand up there.
Ah, Anne.
Yeah, thanks. Just to say that I absolutely support this. I think it's a brilliant initiative, and I would want to help in any way I can.
Okay. So we have agreed. Well, Councillor Goldie.
Just really to agree, yeah, we should try and go forward with it.
Fine. So we're in agreement to give you the support, James. Have you anything else to add?
Yes, it's just really to say that we need to develop an action plan and involve the community, basically, to get this process up and running. I won't go into all the details, but there are 5 goals and criteria that obviously have to be met before the Fair Trade Foundation in London would award the status of Fair Trade Town to us. But I'm heartened, by the support. I think it's one of those things that when our young people are going through sort of Fair Trade Fortnight, everybody's 100% behind it. But I think if we can extend that to the whole year, people supporting and sort of fair trade, I think that would be a wonderful thing. So I'll leave it at that, and possibly, if I may, come back on to one of your meetings, maybe the other side of the summer holidays. It's my intention to speak to other sort of local groups, and then if I can say that I've got the backing of this group, and hopefully that other volunteers, I can come back and report to you at that point, if that sounds okay.
It's a good idea. We would have to rely on you to do the donkey work here.
I'll do that for the moment.
Well, if you need others, you can ask for help. I'm sure some of us will join you. The other thing I was going to say, you said there's various criteria. I wonder if you would send the criteria to Christine so that she could distribute it to us, so that we know what we're trying to achieve here.
No problem.
Just a passing comment. How do you think the cost of fair trade is going to be affected by the economic squeeze? Because some of the fair trade items are a wee bit more expensive.
Yeah, that is the reality of where we are. I accept that, but I think as I say that there's very few people would say fair trade's a bad idea. We live in a very small world these days where we're all very much interconnected, and I think we've all got a part to play. And I appreciate this might not be the best time, but it could be worse in 6 months' time. So why not now? Would be my suggestion. Let's see if we can get a bit of interest, and get this on the road.
Matt, did you want to come in?
Thanks, Chair. Just briefly to come in and say that obviously the community partnership team will provide support where we can in relation to taking this forward.
I should have said that. I'm sure you would. Okay, thank you. Town centre update. David?
Yeah, thanks for inviting us along. So basically this is just an update on where we are. You'll be aware that the town visions, which came to the board sometime last year, were approved by committee last September. So this is really just an update on where we are in terms of progress and how we're progressing them, and also an update on some of the kind of issues we are facing, which may kind of delay the progress. So I'm going to hand over to Gina Enahora, who's in my team, who will take you through a presentation in terms of where we're actually taking this forward and how we're taking this forward.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening and thank you for having me. So this is just a brief tour of what we've done in terms of Cumbernauld Town Vision since it was identified as a town centre, one of the major 8 in North Lanarkshire. So at the moment, just trying to get my slide working. Can you see my next slide? It's not showing on my screen, right? So this is the town center boundary as it's been agreed. So the red line indicates the whole area that has now been identified as the town center. And the next slide is going to show you a close-up view of the concepts that we've been working with in terms of the space that we have. So this is not a detailed design, it's just an exercise to show what can fit in within the space that we have at the moment. So all the areas that are in colors are where we're looking to regenerate. And the next slide will show you a little bit more about what could potentially fit within those spaces. So as you can see here, the space has been reconfigured in such a way that Central Way is no longer there. And this is just one visual. There's another one that will show you where Central Way has been maintained. And there's a car park here that will service the hub. The upper part here is the hub, and the bottom part of what you're looking at is what's going to be more of the commercial and retail side. This area is all going to be outdoor sports activities for both the community and for the school. And then there's a bus station hub here, just where the former Fleming House would have been. And to accommodate for the diversion of the route through Central Way, there are 2 proposals here. So one is by Seafor Road, identified as 2, and then the other one is around North Cumbernauld Road. But for North Cumbernauld, we'll have to acquire more land to expand that road to accommodate vehicle and pedestrian access. And this just shows you a quick indication of the active travel route in relation to visual 1. And for buses, you can see the blue line, the purple is the train down here, and the active travel is for cyclists and for pedestrians as well. And this is just a 3D module of the visual 2. It gives you an indication of what this Central Way will look like, which is more of like a boulevard style appearance. And the Antonine Center is still there, the college is still there, Tesco is still there. This area is mainly where the services for the school, leisure and health center, the library will be. That's the car park, is single use at the moment, but it could be it could become a multi-story, and that's also for where the bus station was going to be mixed use. If we choose to go with that, the ground floor would be all transport, and above will be mixed use as well. This area will be a mixed use as well for retail and also for housing. And on a close-up, this is what the concept looks like if we decide to maintain Central Way. There'll be 3 crossing points and 2 bus stops, and towards the north side of it is where you have mainly the services for the community, and the lower part is where you have the commercial element of it. The bus station is still within the same location. And in the interim, while there'll be demolition and reconfiguration of transport logistics just to accommodate works that are ongoing, we plan on maintaining the area in such a way that it doesn't look derelict or abandoned. So there'll be green landscaping so that the community can use the outdoor spaces for activities. This area here is like a nursery where you would have the community project for like the trees that will be eventually used for any part of the development where we choose to put either the boulevard style or just to line the areas that are going to be redeveloped. And this is just a quick fly through for those that haven't seen it. It's about a minute. It just gives you a scale of what we've been working on, and also kind of a visual from an aerial view as well. And I'm happy to take any questions while this is running in the background.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Gina. You were showing the slide with regards to the transport setup, that vehicles would be going north and south, north on Seafar Road and south on Carbrain. Have we done an impact assessment on the ravages of having that amount of traffic?
No, at the moment it's either one or the other. We haven't done any. There will be a traffic modeling assessment done once we get to that stage, which is if we are able to acquire it, assuming we don't have any issues with Historic Scotland listing. So at this moment, this is just a space exercise to see what's feasible, what can be achieved before we move on to the next stage of actually developing the design, conducting all the relevant feasibility studies in regards to transport, and also engaging with the community as well in terms of what does it feel like to live in Cumbernauld, and what are the things that they would most want to retain in terms of priorities as well. And also, if we're demolishing the Cumbernauld megastructure, are there any artifacts or features which they would want to accommodate into the new design? But we can't really do all of that at this point just because we've not acquired. So it's just due diligence work that we've been doing in terms of the space, what would fit in there, and also engaging with the third-party stakeholders.
How far away is it? How many years before you start?
Well, we could start in the next couple of months if we can acquire the building. But at the moment, we're not able to progress until we are sure of what's going to take place with the Historic Scotland situation. David can come in on this as well.
You're on mute, David.
I think you're talking about probably starting on site rather than starting on the design. So I think, realistically, we're probably looking about 5 years down the line. Even though we acquire the town centre Cumbernauld, which everybody knows is, the route we're hopefully going down, we still basically have to run down existing leases within the building itself. Again, if we were to try and buy them out, that would be outside of the council's financial resources to do that. So we need to put in a strategy, and we're working closely with consultants right now, putting a strategy that gives us an optimum time for the full clearance of the centre, which would then allow us to demolish the centre and then start to take forward the hub and the various different proposals. As Gina has mentioned there, these are really kind of still high-level designs. These are basically saying, if we got all the buildings that we're after, within that area, and we're able to take them down, this is the type of things that we could fit in, and there's 2 different options there. So this is the kind of, and again, there was much support through the town visions for the development of this kind of hub model. Where we have schools, we have all the kind of interactive, facilities. We move a lot of the stuff that sits right now to the south of the Antonine in terms of the community facilities, sports facilities there, and move them, into the town centre and create that hub. But realistically, I think we're looking, before we actually take a hammer to the building, I think we're looking at 5 years down the line.
Councillor Goldie?
Thanks, Convener. I know we're at the high-level concept level just now. Just really to see what is the status of the Historic Scotland thing about the town centre. I know that people were looking to have it listed. That's the first question. The second one is it really follows on to what Alec was saying about the traffic either going through Central Way or Seafar Road or North Carbrain Road. And I know that very positive aspect is the proposal to have a bus station at the Fleming House site, which we've always pushed for. It's just to see how we would square the circle of traffic going around Seafar Road or North Carbrain Road and a bus station at the Fleming House site. And also, if we have a school set up within the town centre hub, would that mean that access would be through the Seafar Road or North Carbrain, or would the boulevard at Central Way be able to cope with that? I know it's high concept and we're quite far away from it, but just to get your thoughts on it.
So I'll cover the transport element of it, and then I'll pass over to Gina to cover the Historic Environment Scotland listing, which again something that we were hoping to bring up. I mean, tonight we were trying to show you that this isn't just about, you know, getting this demolished and then not having a plan and know what we're doing. This is about showing that, you know, we have that kind of follow-on plan, you know, to show that, you know, if we're able to avoid the listing, this is the type of activity that we're going to bring forward. In terms of the, you know, the transport element of this, as Gina said, we still have to do the full transport impact assessment on this. There's two options that have been brought up there. I mean, I think personally, you know, having worked in Cumbernauld for about 20 years, you know, I think it's really unfair that you've almost had a motorway running through the centre of Cumbernauld, you know, which is, you know, divided Cumbernauld in half. But we do have to do that transport impact assessment. You know, what we don't want to do is not just shifting that motorway south of the Antonine or north or the new hub. You know, so that transport impact assessment will show us, you know, the best way to do that, and whether that is to maintain, you know, a reduced central way, you know, with one lane each, you know, and reduce traffic, you know, through there, to encourage, you know, not the whole ethos of not to cut through Cumbernauld, but, you know, to stay on that M80. You know, so there's different things, but that transport impact assessment still has to be completed. So nothing outlined in here is definite. You know, this is just, again, just kind of proposals on what we could fit in here in terms of that high-level vision that's been agreed in terms of delivering the hub, delivering a central facilities base for the community within the heart of the town centre, adjacent to the retail, to make sure that the retail that remains in there is actually workable and viable. So that's hopefully answered, you know, where we are in transport impact assessment. Still years and years down the road from a final decision on that. I'll maybe pass you over to Gina in terms of the...
Before you do that, Annette, you want to come in, and then I'll take Councillor Barclay.
Yeah, I would just like to clarify that we at Community Partnership Team will provide any support that's required within this.
Thank you. Councillor Barclay?
Yeah, it's just kind of two things. One, when it looks at the impact assessment for traffic, is to ensure that it also looks at what happens in the M80 if we have a bump. If the M80 there's any sort of bump or a crash or anything that blocks the traffic, automatically the traffic will come through Cumbernauld. It will, to an extent, go to the other side of the motorway, but a lot of the time it ends up coming through the centre, and we can have times of gridlock. So if we don't have that, it's how the traffic is managed without having central way. And I totally agree. You know, the concept of having a central way was never really ideal. Because it's people are travelling through Cumbernauld and all they see is the back end of businesses, and it's not the most attractive part to be looking at. And the other thing is obviously Historic Scotland. I mean, my feelings here is I'm disappointed that somebody wanted to have it listed, but I think it's very important we do make our feelings clear about to fill in not only the Historic Scotland information that they're looking for, but to fill in the council information that's being looked for as well. Because really in Cumbernauld, for most of my lifetime, we've really been looking at a town centre that really wasn't fit for purpose, and going backwards is really, in my personal opinion, not really an option when we've got an opportunity here. So if, regardless of what your views on that, I think it's important that you make those views known, and I'll leave it at that, and thanks.
Well, I will pass over to Gina in a second. I mean, we're well aware that, you know, when the M80's, you know, blocked up, that, you know, the diversion comes through Cumbernauld. So as certainly we'll be getting Transport Scotland involved in relation to the transport impact assessment, and we'll be looking at, like, you know, options to what actually occurs. But again, you know, I think we get back to the question is, you know, should Cumbernauld, you know, town be getting used as a bypass when there's an accident on the M80? You know, I think there's questions. But again, it's questions for, you know, the community to be involved in as well. We will not be doing this in isolation. We'll be working with appropriate agencies and the communities to come up with the, you know, the correct solution to this. Gina, I'll pass over to you in terms of Historic Environment Scotland and the listings.
Okay, so we had engaged twice prior to the listing with Historic Scotland just to find out what their views were in terms of how we could ensure that the building wasn't listed. But it turned out that if we were to make a submission of not to list, they would assess it and it could go either way. So they could decide to list it or not. So it was a double-edged sword when we did our risk assessment, and the project board decided that we should leave it for now because we've not acquired it either, and then see what happens. And 2 weeks before we kind of agreed most of the heads of terms with the stakeholder HAMCAP, we got an email from Historic Scotland saying that somebody had submitted, you know, an application calling for the building to be listed. And the most they said on who did the application was that it was a local resident, but whether they still live there, I don't know. Then they started off with their pre-consultation, which they did on their citizen, published on the citizen website and their own website. So that's open at the moment for people to send in general comments, and it will close June 12th. After that, they will review the feedback and then review all the research work, including all the information that they've gathered, and then make a proposal. That proposal, they said, will be submitted sometime in early summer. So we're probably expecting it around July. Then that's when a formal response will be sent to Environmental Scotland in terms of what the council's view is on the outcome, if it's against, and also other stakeholders at that point could submit their formal response as well in regards to their decision. Now, the council is developing a response in 3 parts. So one is about the future, what we want to do, why we feel like the structure no longer meets the community needs, and the fact that there's nowhere else at the moment that's been considered suitable as an alternative site to deliver the town hub. And then we'll also be looking at the environmental and sustainability element of this. How feasible is it to actually refurbish what's there? And then the third aspect is going to be on the historic and cultural element, what the people of Cumbernauld actually think about it, and whether it's of value to the community, and if there's any, based on, you know, the surveys that we're doing currently and that done previously, the community's feelings about not wanting to keep it. So that would be the 3-part response that will put together go back to Environmental Scotland.
Sorry, if I could just come in there quickly, just a wee bit further to the end. So there's a question there that's come out. Again, the council has to really be unbiased, you know, in terms of this, and can lead, you know, communities to how, you know, we want them to, you know, see or view our proposals. However, there's a question there, and again, you know, the community feelings about a building and so forth play a very strong part, you know, on this. So this is really a good chance for the community to have their say about how they feel about the building, strongly, you know, in terms of positive, or strongly in terms of negative, or quite neutral about it. So I would, you know, advocate that, you know, everybody, you know, goes on and actually, you know, responds to the questionnaire, and also encourage local groups and so forth to go on and give their feelings, because this is really the time to give and make sure that, you know, your thoughts about the buildings and potential future proposals for the building. This is the time to actually get involved in terms of the response to historic environment in Scotland.
Who's leading the campaign against it?
I don't think there is a campaign against it as such. So there has been a number of articles written in Urban Design about brutalist architecture, and some have been in support of it. There has been, as far as we are aware, there's only been one call to have the building listed by a local resident. Again, you know, Hess certainly wouldn't give out the, you know, the information and the details on that. So I don't think there's as such as a campaign about getting this either listed or not getting listed. It's just, you know, the process that happens. As soon as somebody puts a call in for the building to be listed, then HES are legally obliged to take that process through and do an evaluation on whether it should be listed or not. Ultimately, their decision will then go to the ministers, and the ministers will take the ultimate decision whether to sign that off or to reject the proposals.
Okay, Raymond Taylor. You're on mute, sir.
Sorry about that. Raymond Taylor, I'm the Health and Social Work Manager in the North locality, but this is, I'm speaking in a personal capacity because I live in Cumbernauld. I'm struck by the fact that the original town centre, when it was thought about in the 1950s, really is much like the hub that we're describing it today. And the intention was a way back then to have health services and leisure services in the one building. So it's in some ways it's an extension of that. But my main concern would just be about the idea of high volume of traffic going around either the Cumbernauld Road or the Seafar Road. Particularly when you look at all the new housing development that is at the top of Drummond or Bolton Roads, the idea of taking the traffic away from Central Way would concern me.
We'll no doubt capture that when they come back with the transport impact.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Goldie.
It's just really a wee question on the consultation process. As you know, that as councillors we'll probably be involved in planning processes and various things and aspects of planning. As if you give an opinion before a planning hearing of that, you can be essentially debarred from a vote. Is there any such limitations on responding as an individual, despite being a councillor, to a consultation?
I don't think there would be in this case, because you're not really taking forward the actual plans. What you're actually commenting on is the worthiness of this building to be listed or not be listed. So this isn't a case of this building, if it's not listed, it gets demolished and a new building comes and there's a new planning process. That's not what this is about. This is about the quality of this building. Do you believe this should be listed or not?
Anne Ballinger.
Thank you. I've completed the form from Historic Environment Scotland. Maybe I got it because I'm a member, I don't know, but I filled it in and there's nothing in it that I could see that would compromise the position of a councillor. Simply your opinion on the current building and whether it's worthy of being kept and whether it's fit for purpose. And I have to say I was quite brutal in my response in terms of that.
Okay. Jared McLaughlin, you want to come in?
Yeah, I suppose it's not so much about that part. It's more if we get into the next phase about what happens. I suppose it picks up on the point that Raymond just made there. When we look at the designs, having been involved in some of the hubs around schools, it's looking back at the lessons learned, Raymond, that people take on board, absolutely. But most importantly, as well, it's about taking on the views, especially from a school perspective, of the pupils, the staff, the parents. I think as a council, I've seen huge developments over recent years. Some of the designs of some of the buildings to meet the future needs are absolutely being taken on board. And some of the design teams that we've now got behind the scenes are producing buildings, hubs, whatever way you want to describe them, that meet the needs of all of the school, the community, to ensure that it's been used and can be, I suppose, designed in a way that it does meet all the needs that are there. So it's to give the reassurance, the fact of, from my personal perspective and professional, I've now seen a real difference. And I think in the recent ones, as I say, some of the schools and hubs, it's been quite incredible what they've come up with a design. And I think that's where, moving forward, if we do get to that point, we'll see something really creative, but also meets the needs of all of the users within that particular area. But I hear the issues about transport and traffic management are definitely some of the concerns that happen in many of the other hubs. But there's always people who are the consultation's key, and where they try and look at the best and the safest options available for all the users in and around the state. So just wanted to add those few comments, Chair.
Okay, we're coming close to the time allotted for this subject. Gina, do you want to come back in?
Yeah, just quickly, I just wanted to highlight in terms of transport, the visual that I showed you, there was a dedicated road for this hub itself, as in the school. So they have their own service route, you know, and they have their own drop-off area. So that was identified. Then in terms of Central Way, at some point, Central Way will not be in use because of just the general logistics of demolition and groundworks that needs to be done. So human nature will kind of dictate how, in a way, people will decide to use the alternative routes, whether that be CFA or North Cabrain. So at some point, that road will not be in use, even if we go with, you know, redeveloping it and maintaining it long term. And also it will be slowed down if we retain it. So the traffic would drop and it would go down to a single lane. So those using it as a thoroughfare anyway from, you know, out of the city might still not even use it, even though it's open. So it's just something to bear in mind going forward, that it might not be used as it used to before the works will begin, and it will also be shut down for a significant period of time due to road works and other things going on.
Okay, so it seems that the transport element here is going to be one of the most important aspects of it. And the whole project may hinge on the fact that you might have to develop the roads on the north and on the south to cope with the traffic. You just can't push the buses and stuff onto those roads, but we'll see what the impact comes back with. Okay, folks, unless there's something pressing, I want to move on. Okay. Local priorities. We've got public and community transport. Christine, are you going to take these things?
Yes, I will, Alex, thanks. I just wanted to do a wee quick update. This section of the agenda will focus on providing updates on progress in terms of the local outcome improvement plan priorities that have been identified within the Cumbernauld area. As you will be aware, the Cumbernauld LOIC was developed following a wider engagement process to identify key priorities across Cumbernauld, and a number of the people round about the table tonight are on the call will have been involved in that process. There are 7 priorities. You'll have seen that from the agenda. The priorities include public and community transport, which is interesting because obviously we've just had that kind of discussion there in terms of transport, green space maintenance and environmental quality, youth engagement and consultation, digital inclusion, targeted action with identified communities, and the communities understand that have been identified are Cabrain, Cildrum and neighbouring hill communities. And food and financial insecurity and communication and engagement. Myself and Annette Warren, who's on the call tonight, we'll be looking to work in partnership with you to further develop the subgroups that will work towards actions that will address the priorities identified by local people. I understand from Gary Stark, who's given us a handover since he's moved on, obviously, to his new areas, that 3 of the subgroups have already met, which is great. It's a great start, and others are being planned. And I wanted to just say thanks to all of you who have expressed an interest so far and have been involved to date, and we'll be in touch with you shortly to kind of discuss that further. The process is at an early stage, but there's still an opportunity for others to become involved in that process. Now, I know there's some maybe new faces round about the board, and there will be over the coming months as well. But even if you're new, if you're interested in finding out more about the LOIP, even if you've not been involved in the process to date, please speak to us, get in contact with us. We'll be happy to discuss that and kind of let you know a wee bit more about that. We would ask that people who are interested give consideration to where your interests lie, your skills, your experiences that you have, and how they lie in relation to the priorities that have been identified. So, for example, we don't have young people on the call tonight, but obviously the the priority in relation to youth engagement and consultation. If you're working in a project or an organisation that's working with young people, or indeed you are young people, and want to be involved in that process, then we would be looking to kind of get people involved in that. We understand that community organisations groups may not have the capacity to be involved in all of the subgroups, and that's okay. As we progress, updates will be provided and shared with the community board, and this section of the agenda is where that would happen. But we would hope that we would share all of the developments, and there would be linkages between each of the subgroups as well. We'll be in contact, as I mentioned before, with the people who are already involved and have put themselves forward, but certainly over the coming weeks and months we will be in contact. So please, if anybody is interested in being involved or want to just find out more, contact myself or Annette through Community Matters, or I can put my email address on the chat bar. Just let us know if you're interested in being involved. Moving forward, we would expect that the subgroups would meet in between board meetings, so that progress would be made and would be able to be fed back at the board, so everyone would be aware of kind of progress as it happens. That's all I wanted to say, Chair. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Christine. The only thing I would add that I'm involved in one or two of the subgroups, and what the subgroups really need to have, in addition to ourselves taking part, is people with lived-in experience. For example, people who are going on the transport, the community transport subgroup. We would need people who use buses and trains and don't have cars. So it's not necessarily perhaps us being on those groups, but finding somebody to go on that group. It might be your next door neighbour. But we need to support these groups because they're going to be very important in moving forward. Any questions for Christine on this one? Chair Smith.
Yeah, thanks, Alec. It was just to clarify, the community board expressed a preference previously that councillors shouldn't be part of subgroups. It was just to ask if that's still the opinion of the community board. Thanks.
Have we anything against the councillors being on the subgroups?
To be honest, Chair, I've been involved in some of the other subgroups in other areas before I moved over to Cumbernauld, and we had some elected members on those. I think that the role is obviously you've got experience, you've got knowledge about the local area as well. We're really keen that we have local people's involvement. So if you've got skills, experiences in particular areas, then we're happy for you to be involved if you've got something you want to contribute. But we want to make it as much as possible about local people's involvement within it. But happy if you're interested and you want to kind of get involved.
Yeah, I think it might be a good idea, but I wouldn't want to overwhelm the groups with the superior intelligence of the councillors. Okay, it's back to you, Christine, for item 7.
Thanks, Chair. So just a very quick update. This section of the agenda, you'll see it's a wee bit different from previously. This section of the agenda provides an opportunity for community groups, organisations and partners to share information about local engagement that's taken place. And I know there will be a lot of engagement over the next period of time, just obviously with the discussion there about the town centre. And I know there's kind of developments in Apron Hill and places like that as well. So it's an opportunity to kind of discuss those kind of things. It's also an opportunity to identify any funding opportunities that are available to local groups, organisations that local groups and organisations are aware of, but also for us to share kind of potential funding sources that are available that local groups and organisations can tie into. And if it's okay with you, Chair, if you don't mind, I'll pass over to Annette Warren just to give us a wee update on some funding that might be available shortly. Is that all right, Chair?
Yes, Annette.
Thank you. Thank you. If I can just let everyone know that the NL Recovery Grant will be starting back up. Many of you applied previously. It's a grant for up to £4,000 and it's for groups involved in litter picking, cleanups and small environmental projects. More information will follow, and when it comes out, if anybody has any questions or needs any support in completing the application form, then give me a call. The other one I would like to raise tonight is the community solutions. I know a lot of you know about it, and that's a health and social care consortium that operates locally. They have small pockets of money for community groups to access funding which will improve people's lives around the health and social care agenda. And the information, more information on that can be got from Susan Drummond or myself, and I will make the referral over. Again, if anyone needs any advice, support, get in touch and I'll be able to do that for you. Thank you very much.
Any questions for Annette or Christine? No, thank you. We're now at item 8 on the agenda. This is the standing items. First up is Gerard McLaughlin, our community champion.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a number of updates for you this evening. And just to put in context what's happening with each of the community champions, because there's so much up of an update to be provided from, I suppose, so many different parts of the council, we've set up a shared file that we can start and I suppose note the pieces of information that should be shared around each of the community groups. I think I'll begin with a piece of work that is just gone live today. The elected members who are on this evening will know that the full council papers have been posted out, and one of the main papers that has been of interest, certainly in the north, especially in the Christen area, is in relation to the Christen consultation, where I met with the ward members today to give them a briefing of this paper. For those of you who don't know, the background to this is that we had proposed a model which was called the MELM, which stands for the Multi-Establishment Leadership Model. And that was a proposal that was put forward because of the set of circumstances that were, I suppose, available to us in the Christen area. So what this is, in short, is where you can have things like a through school. So you could have early years, primary, secondary, and you would have one head teacher for those establishments. This is a model that has been done and tried out in many other councils across Scotland and across the country. And certainly it was an opportunity that became, I suppose, apparent to us because of recruitment issues that we had in the north. So we went out to recruit a head teacher in the primary school and we were not able to appoint. And this is also about strengthening leadership and also to look at the resources that are available in a setting or settings and to see how that could strengthen the school. There's been a significant amount of worry, concern, questioning around this whole proposed model. And today a report was put online which is on the Mars site, which gives the overview about the whole of the particular paper. The paper itself gives the detailed, I suppose, analysis of what it was that we did in the Christen community, which was that we had what we called a SWOT analysis, which looks at the strengths, opportunities, the weaknesses of what it is you're going to do, consultation with parents, carers, and also wider stakeholders. And we gathered in all of that information, but we had 5 key principles that we looked at this. And in the paper, it gives an overview where we look at all of the questionnaires that come in. We do analysis of all of that information. There was also a petition that was put in that had 1,505 signatures, which were from a number of people from the north of Scotland to the south of England to Europe and beyond, all commented and signed this petition. However, the business case, most importantly, was where we looked at the the housing developments that are happening in the Christton area. And we saw, and we believe that in the next 5 years, we're going to see a significant number. Just to put that in context, potentially additional 500 children in that area needing either early years, primary or secondary school. So taking on board the feedback that we got from parents and carers, from staff, from pupils, etc., along with this business case, we said that this was not the right establishment and area to do this with. So that information has gone out. So that has been approved from a CMT. It goes to council for noting on the 9th of June. And the way we communicated it out today was I met with the ward members prior to it going live. And then one of the things that certainly the comments I'd taken on board from I suppose, a number of stakeholders was about our communication. So we decided to, the minute it went live on Mars, which is the website that holds all of the committee papers, we sent out an SMS to every parent and carer in Christton Primary School and Christton Secondary School. In addition to that, we sent out a SMS to all of the staff there too. In addition, there was the trade union meeting today where they were also briefed about it. So I think it'd be fair to say we have gone through a very comprehensive consultation process. It has caused a lot of anxiety, I absolutely accept, but I'm an officer of the council and my duty is to fulfil where there's a committee paper with an approval for us as an education service to go and to consult. That's exactly what we did. And hopefully what people will see is that we had an open, transparent process. FOIs come in, significant number of emails come in looking for a whole variety of different responses. But most importantly, I think it's clear in the report, we have gone through this in a very detailed way and we have provided a response to the parents and carers. I am sure, based on what I heard from the local elected members today, it will be well received, and I know already it has been well received, a decision that has been made by the council. So I think that's an important thing to tell you, because some of you will be aware of what I'm talking about, others may not. This might be the first time they're hearing about it, but there is the intention moving forward where we would look at, so for example, you might have within that particular Cumbernauld hub moving forward, you may have an early years, a primary and a secondary, and you may have then what we call a through school, and where you would have that management model that would be different. The model has been agreed through the trade unions, although from their perspective, they have said that they are not in support of it. However, they have agreed in a policy for us to be able to do it. So that's the Christton consultation. That's the document that's available online. It's a very broad overview of a very long journey that officers within education and families have been on. I don't know if, Chair, if there's any questions on that one specifically, because there's a lot of information, and I promise I won't do that with the next items that I'm going to do, but I think it's maybe worth just stopping to see if there's any questions.
Well, it might have been useful for you to give us the contact on the link before we had the meeting so we could go and look at it. Any questions? No? Wait till it happens in Cumbernauld and then we can shout.
Chair, Councillor Ashraf has got his hand up.
Councillor, sorry, missed you there. Yep.
Thanks, Alex. Excuse me, I've got a little bit of a sore throat, but I hope you can hear me. Thanks, Jared, for the update. I know it's been a very long and arduous journey from start to end, and every elected member here will testify to how many emails came through about this single issue. It's been a very long time that we've had this amount of engagement with something, and I think it's only right that the council's heard that and acted accordingly, I suppose. The only question that I have, at the risk of raising this back up when we're just getting to the end of it, is that you mentioned that this that it's been decided by the Education Service that this is not the area to implement this in. Is there a thought to continue to implement this in a similar fashion in other areas? You gave the example of Cumbernauld. Was that just a case of you would do it across the different levels of schooling, and you wouldn't do it across, for example, 2 high schools? Is that what the intention is now?
So just to pick up the point, I can send the link, Chair. It just literally was this afternoon, and obviously there's been a lot of communication that's gone out, so apologies about that. I can get that link sent out to everybody so they can actually see that paper in full. With regards to the specific question, Councillor, bear in mind it's not an education. This was a council decision that was made about instructing officers to go and to look at this moving forward, because it went through, as we've said before, a number of, back in 2019, a number of committees, and our role from an officer of the council is to look at how we can implement that to make that proposal come forthwith. So, and that's what happened. So to answer your question specifically, yes, there will be similar things that will happen in the future, and it will be in other areas, and we'll go through that whole consultation process. There's a lot of lessons being learned. We will not spend that inordinate amount of time doing it. We've got quicker electronic systems to be able to gather that information, but that's specifically around the consultation at Christen, because that's the one we said we're going to do. If we were going to do any more in the future, obviously community boards and other parents and carers, staff, trade unions, etc., would all be made aware of it.
Thanks, Jared. Sorry, I wasn't trying to suggest that the Education Service was going rogue there. You're right, it's been coming through the council as a whole. Thank you.
Jared, I'm conscious of your time.
I know, apologies. I suppose just to pick up on a few other wee things then, well, not wee, but they are significant, but I'll try not to spend as much time. There was, Councillor Goldie had raised an issue about antisocial behaviour at Town Centre. Susan Ray gets the gold star for replying, although I did, behind the scenes, I have got colleagues with the CCTV linking with probably Susan's team as well, looking to see if we can try and deal with antisocial behaviour that you raised. I think there's another significant piece of work that's going on at the moment, is about the number of Ukrainian families that are coming to Scotland. Those of you will be aware there's 3 visa schemes that are currently taking place at the moment. There's the Homes for Ukraine, there's the Scottish Super Sponsor Scheme, and there's the Family Scheme. There's a number of families that are arriving in Scotland in various locations, both in Glasgow, Edinburgh, and also Cairnryan, and they're linked with different councils. However, we've been, Edinburgh in particular, seeing a high volume of Ukrainian families arriving, and the Scottish Government have therefore asked for assistance with setting up secondary integration point hubs, and one of these hubs will be in the north area in Cumbernauld. So it's to make you aware of that. There's families who are arriving on tomorrow, in fact, and even at this late stage, we're unable, because the families go through Edinburgh first, then to come to Glasgow, and there will be a number that will be coming into the Cumbernauld area. I'm not able to say any more than that at the moment, but a number of services from across the council will be and have already been in discussions and how we support these families coming into the Cumbernauld area. But I think as a Cumbernauld community group, I think it's important you're aware of that, and also the significant amount of work that is going on from a social work, from community learning development, from education and other services across the council to support these families coming in. Unfortunately, I'm unable to, because we do not have that information to know the number of children and to know exactly how many adults are coming in. But maybe at the next meeting, I'll be able to do that. Timescales for how long they'll be in, approximately a fortnight they'll be here in the Cumbernauld area. And as I say, services will be providing supports for those families who have gone through significant amount of trauma, as we've all seen through the sort of daily news reports that we get in our through social media, etc. Just other things just to go through. As I said, colleagues have highlighted a number of other points. I'll maybe just highlight two and then finish off with something nice at the end. So there's enterprise colleagues have flagged up about a business startup grant funding that's available. North Lanarkshire Council has launched a business startup grant to provide grant funding to help pre-start businesses with a robust and viable business idea to commence trading earlier than they would otherwise be possible. This will be funding for things like IT equipment, infrastructure costs, website design, and stock costs. The tiered funding structure of grants will be £1,000 to £2,500 will be made available. And this information, if anyone is looking for it, we can get that to them, but it's through Business Gateway. The other thing, just from a youth perspective, is that from a CLD update, the 9 local youth forums are developing well within with the new members of the Scottish Parliament, all active and involved. And they'll be hosting an event that's going to be taking place in Greenfalls in July. Young people, we believe about 200 young people and staff from all over Scotland will attend the first in-person SYP sitting in over 2 years. And just another update from CLD in that is that the Young Scot free transport is progressing well, with an issue to date of 14,000 cards. Having a daughter who I got a couple of weeks ago to try and do it, it's not the easiest form to fill in. So we are looking at ways of communicating through young people, to young people, to encourage them to take up this card to allow them to have free transport. And just finally, the Jubilee events, there's a significant amount of Jubilee events that are taking place in our schools and centres. Active Schools have got a whole variety of different activities. There's a whole series of educational resources that have been put in place, and there's also commemorative books that schools have been encouraged to and given the website to apply for. And there's an array of, as I say, events being held, some raising money for charities, etc., to celebrate the Jubilee events over the weekend. So, sorry, Chair, for taking so long with updates.
Pushed your time there, sir. You pushed your time there. Any questions for Jared? Nope. Right then.
Chair, Anne has her hand up.
Anne, have you got your hand? No, she hasn't.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm talking too much in this meeting. I'll stop after this. I'm interested in the news about Ukrainian families coming to Cumbernauld. Is there anything that we as a community can do to support these people? We did it with the Syrian refugees through Cumbernauld and Kilsyth Cares, and we would be very happy to do it again.
Chair, through you, I really appreciate the support, but our problem is we don't know the exact need of these children, young people and families that are coming in at this moment in time. There is a number of, as I say, across the council services that we're looking from our psychological services to our early years to make sure that we basically have the potential for pop-up, I suppose, settings for the children, young people, to take them to places around the council. So we'll be using a variety of things and resources like the time capsule, maybe like other community facilities that we've got. Because I've got early years, I can certainly make sure that we've got the hubs, a bit like what we did, if you remember, when we set them up during COVID. So I appreciate the support, but I wouldn't know exactly, based on the fact we do not know the numbers coming in. We don't know the specific needs. But if I did have any, I suppose, ask, I would come back through the chair, maybe just to see what support we could give. But certainly from a council perspective, there's a significant amount of support that will be given to those families when they arrive.
Okay, thank you. I think it's maybe important to know that there are a lot of us in the community who'd be willing to do the same befriending as we did with the Syrian families.
That's noted. Thanks very much, and I'll certainly pass that on.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Matt, it's your turn.
Thanks, Chair. Just to briefly update on the local development programme, the appendices to the report show the progress, a number of the projects that took place in the last financial year. You can see the details there about projects that have been completed, etc., and other ones that we're looking to take forward in the next financial year and beyond. What I wanted to do was highlight there's been some requests for further information in relation to some reports in relation to the process. But just that the report highlights the requirements for the project proposal forums that we are taking forward now for all the projects that go forward and are being assessed by the team for feasibility, etc. There's some detail in there and some links in relation to accessing those forums and the support that's available in relation to that. And just finally, in relation to that, Chair, just to update on the, if there are any elected members or community groups who have got some ideas for further projects, then please let us know about them, and we'll help through that process as we go forward into the next financial year. Thanks, Chair.
Any questions for Matt? Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Just on the CCTV point, I mentioned previously about CCTV potentially at Cumbernauld House Park, and I went with Colin and one of the officers from CCTV and had a look at Cumbernauld House Park, but it doesn't seem to be mentioned on the report.
Yeah, we're aware of that one, Councillor Smith, and we're in discussions at the moment with the CCTV team regarding that. We're looking at different locations for that. We're aware of the locations that have been put forward. Feasibility exercise will be carried out on that basis as well, but we're looking at that site and we will update you as soon as we've got further more information to give you on that.
Thanks.
Councillor Barclay.
Thanks, Chair. Matt, just to ask for an update on the Oak Road football pitch. It's saying it's seeking approval, year 2 priority. I know that obviously it was looking because of the funding situation, but can you give me just a wee bit of an update on that one?
In relation to that project, Chair, it's just that's something that we are working with the local community and other interested parties in relation to that particular project, and hopefully we're looking to support the project through the community board. If the community board is happy for us to enter into further discussions in relation to that, further consultation, then we'll be happy to take that forward and provide further information to the board going forward.
Thank you.
So, sorry, can I just supplement you? So, do you need approval from the board tonight for us to be able to go ahead? With that, it's just obviously it's important to the community because there's not many parking places at all up there, and the parking is spreading right onto the road, and there have been significant concerns about obviously the kids coming in among the cars that are all onto that main road. So it's just to see, do we need approval tonight?
If we get approval here tonight, Chair, for Councillor Barclay, for the approval going forward, that means that allows us to start the ball rolling in terms of any project proposals that are required, any feasibility, etc. that's required. So if the board's happy for us to take that forward, then we can move it to the next stages.
We have very little detail on it, Matt.
At this stage, Chair, there isn't a huge amount of detail we can give you at this particular stage, but what we do carry out is there's further consultation will be carried out once we have designs, etc. available. Once we get to that stage, that will be shared with the local residents, elected members in the area, to give them more information in relation to that. At this stage, we just want to get these projects into the mix for consideration.
There's an approval. You're looking for approval in principle.
Yeah, that's what we do with all the projects that start.
And then it'll come back to us.
We'll come back to you.
Fully priced and everything else.
That's as part of the consultation. We will go out and consult with local communities in relation. We won't bring the designs, for example, back to the board.
No.
What we will do is we have indicative costs for these kind of projects. We'll pull those kind of things together. We will consult locally with the people who live nearby where the project has been planned and being proposed, and consultation and designs are drawn up for that. And once we had that, the cost of that project will be included in future community board reports.
Okay. Have we agreement on that? on the football park? Yes, yes.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? Thanks, Matt. Sorry, Councillor Ashraf.
Sorry, Alex. Seem to be catching you off guard today. Just wanted to get a wee update from Matt on the Westfield where the brickwork repairs are taking place. What stage are we at in that, and is that also proceeding as well? There's been a number of complaints and concerns raised from young people and from constituents in the area about people getting hurt and falling about because the brickwork's really in disrepair at the minute.
Yeah, we're at the moment, the Community Partnership Officer, Annette, and the team here will be working to assist the local community group in preparing a project proposal forum for that, councillor. And from that, we then determine what the aspirations are of the local community in relation to the work getting done there. Once that goes forward, then we can look at any required design works on that. So that's in hand at the moment, and it's one of the projects we'll be looking to take forward.
So just to follow up, Matt, just similar to, I suppose, what my colleague Councillor Barker was asking there, is there approval needed tonight for this, or is this already being taken ahead?
This is one that we are looking at the moment. It's at the stage now. We've got a project proposal forum. We're going to be getting completed on that. If the board is happy for us to take that forward, we'll make sure that goes into the process now, and that allows us to take that forward as best we can. And we will keep the local community informed of what the proposals will look like going forward.
Okay. Is the board happy about this? That we go forward with this one as well? Councillor Barclay?
So can I just say that I mean I'll sort of go on about the Aben Hill one, but that's actually been on this list for at least the last one and possibly the previous one. And I think we really need to make sure that when these are coming up that we make a decision as a board whether something's getting approval or not, because this was on the last in the last one. And I don't have the recollection, but I was sure that we have previously given approval for this to be going ahead. And it's
Councillor Barclay, you're right. They're not all seeking approval at this stage. Some of the reports are just for giving updates on that. Right. There are some, you'll see it under a particular heading in there, it's seeking approval in the report. There are ones that are seeking approval stage. There are others that are just giving you an update as to where we are with them. It might well be that sometimes these can take a bit of time in terms of trying to get community consultation. But we will continually give an update on that when we come to the board. In some occasions, there might not be any asking for approval. It might just be ones where we're telling you, well, we're at project proposal forum stage, or we're at tender stage, or it's going to be implemented. That's how you can see some of them in that report. They're saying work's completed, the job's done, it's been tendered and done. They're not all seeking approval. If they've already got approval, then we're not seeking a further approval here tonight. It's just means of update to the board.
Right, thanks. It's just I obviously didn't want anything to be. I mean, I know you're on top of it, and I don't doubt that for a second. It's just to make sure that nothing is missed and we don't give projects approval because we've missed it when we need to give them approval.
No.
The board. That's
the report itself, hopefully, if it's not clear enough, we can make it clearer. But we're trying to make the report itself. It says these are ones for approval, and the rest of it is just updates on current projects that have already been approved and are at varying stages of progress.
Okay, thank you.
Billy Lees.
Chair, can I come back with Councillor Ashraf was talking about, about the brickwork outside Westfield Community Hall. I mean, I hear Mark saying it's going to be looked at and it's going to be seen, but the damage is all being done at the moment. We've got Pensioners' House next to this ground, and they're just throwing all the bricks into the pensioners' houses, and I think there's some needs to be done ASAP, and I mean now, not in a later stage.
Yeah, if I can come in there briefly. Well, given the comments from Billy, we'll certainly make sure that we get that looked at. If it needs some interim measures to be carried out, then we'll certainly look to the appropriate service to look at that. We'll pick that up through the community partnership team.
Councillor Ashraf.
Alex. And thanks for Billy coming in on that. I think I just double checked on the agenda there. So the one that I'm mentioning is one that's for needing approval. So Alex, through you, if we could ask that from the board, that would be helpful, just so we know it's going in the right direction. Thank you.
Yes. Have we approval for the brickwork at Westfield? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Your hand's still up.
Sorry, that's it.
Anything else, Matt?
Oh, that's all, Chair. Thank you.
We have no petitions. And community con card. Who's talking on that one tonight?
Chair, it should be a rep from Van El. I think Camille's on.
Yes, yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. So can you see and hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. So good evening, everyone. I've got some information about the Community Concordat. So primarily, Van El has been funded by the North Lancashire Partnership NLP to create a Community Concordat in consultation with all key stakeholders. This project is to evaluate what resources we have in NL basically, and how well they are working at the moment. So it is also to evaluate committee boards, and the survey was distributed and will be open till the 10th of June. Closing next Friday. I'm going to send you a link to the survey actually in the chat in a minute. The plan is to get as many people as possible to complete this particular survey. So I'm hoping that we'll hear from the public, organizations, and obviously yourselves. And later we will run some workshops and focus groups with different topics. For example, young people. So in this case, as an example, YMCA will be involved and the prominent members. And we'll see how things will get improved as a result. So basically the Concordat will be developed in consultation with local residents, the community and voluntary sector, which is CVS, public bodies serving North Lancashire, including North Lancashire Council, NHS Lancashire, Police Scotland, and Scottish Fire and Rescue, and also businesses serving in North Lancashire. We will write up this community Concordat, which is basically a written agreement to take all issues and work to improve upon them. We'll also work with appreciative inquiry, which is looking at positives and concentrating on that and the strengths side of the project. This Concordat, or agreement, if you like, will set out shared values and approaches to empowering and investing in local communities and to support improved well-being, equality, and sustainability. I believe you've been sent the briefing paper and you've seen it, hopefully. I was attached to the email. And from this position, I would like to ask you, all the members, community board members, to complete the survey if you haven't yet. And again, it is due to close around 10 of June. Yep, that's it. So the survey results and the planned focus groups will inform the Community Concordat as well, and they'll be drafted and launched early in 2023. That's the plan. I'm going to copy now the link and send it to chat. That's all from me. Thank you so much.
Any questions from Camille? Nope. AOCB, first item is Suzanne MacLeod to talk about Let's Play Fair. Are you with us, Suzanne? No. Nope.
No, Chair, she doesn't seem to be on the meeting.
Okay. Right, any other business? Lisa?
Hello there. It's not really a huge thing to be discussed. It was just to bring up there's a substantial amount of funding available for the improvement of the historic environment from the Scottish Government at the moment. And I had requested that it's something that North Lanarkshire should be looking at. I was told there's no resource to do so. And I just wanted really to register a disappointment in North Lanarkshire Council on their treatment of the historic environment within Cumbernauld. This funding is substantial. It's a lengthy process, but given the state of our conservation areas and things like the Cumbernauld Theatre, the old weavers' cottages, which is the last remnants really within Cumbernauld of the weaving heritage, I just wanted to record as a community board that North Lanarkshire aren't taking action at the moment for funding for the historic environment. And that was it really.
Anybody from the council wish to comment? No. We haven't heard from the fire and rescue or the police.
Councillor Goldie's got his hand up, Chair.
Sorry, Councillor Goldie.
Lisa, if you want to put that in an email, I'll kind of take that forward, certainly to our group anyway, and find out what the situation really is.
There's lack of resources, Councillor Goldie, to have someone do the application. Like I say, it is a lengthy process. It's a big fund, but I had then asked, well, what are the council going to do about the conservation areas and the weavers' cottages, etc. And I was told nothing really. So I'll certainly chase it up with you.
I did send it up with us anyway. You know, there's been a change of council, change of maybe thoughts, priorities, or that, so it'll be worthwhile running it past them again.
Thanks, Councillor Goldie.
Okay.
Alex, sorry, just on that. Yeah, Lisa, as you know, I was at the Village Community Council meeting, so that's something that I've picked up, and I've exchanged a few emails with council officers about that, so I'll drop you an update soon.
Thank you, Councillor Smith.
Thanks.
Billy Lees.
Just I'd like to apologise, as you know, I was quite late coming in, so I didn't know half of what happened at the beginning of the meeting, but I'd just like to let everyone know that we have our gala day in a fortnight's time, so please everybody remember that, and there is still stalls available for the gala day. I'd probably, John King's probably maybe mentioned it, but please get in touch if you want a stall with us as soon as you can. Thank you.
Yes, John did that, and he said he would take notes for you, because I don't think he expected you to attend.
Yeah, I didn't expect you to attend myself. I'm waiting myself getting cut off again.
Pay the electric bill.
You know how you love to see my face, Alec?
Yes. Inspector Ray, have you anything to add to your report, or have you another bit?
Evening, Chair. I haven't actually submitted a written report. On speaking to Christine, I think kind of going forward, we're just looking for some updates, just probably in relation to joint work that we're focusing on with our partners. So I just thought I'd give a verbal update if that's okay.
Yes.
So some of the stuff that we're kind of focusing on going forward is we are seeing a significant number or an increase in youth disorder and antisocial behaviour in predominantly, I suppose, the kind of town centre area itself and also the Kilbrain area. So we are working with various partners to kind of try and combat this, particularly in relation to the town centre. We're working alongside the town centre management. There has been one of my team members identified and has sort of taken on the post as dedicated town centre officer. So he's sort of taken ownership of all of the recent inquiries in relation to the kind of youth causing and antisocial behaviour in the town centre area. And we've been working with various partners such as CLD to try and identify alternative diversionary tactics, and also our partners at NLC Housing and Sanctuary Housing, where we've basically kind of identified a number of the kids that were involved in the antisocial behaviour and done a round of joint visits where parental alert letters were given and advice was given in relation to how the children's behaviour could affect the tenancy. So that is sort of work that's ongoing just now. The local town centre officer does have an action plan. We're planning to sort of have focused attention in the town centre area in the 2 weeks leading up to the school holidays and the first 2 weeks of the summer holidays. And we're hoping to work with our partners for CLD during that period, as well as the local kind of campus officer for Cumbernauld Academy, just to try and have that kind of focused activity. And for the Kilbrain area, it's a kind of similar situation. Again, youth disorder, antisocial behaviour. A lot of the antisocial behaviour is linked to drug taking, violence, etc. So again, the local ward officers there have a local action plan running at the minute, and as part of that, there'll obviously be increased patrols, working alongside our partners, and through the support of the North Area Crime Prevention Group, we've secured some funding for a Crime Stoppers campaign. So that's going to involve a kind of poster, social media campaign, a leaflet drop, just to highlight the services of the charity organisation Crime Stoppers for anonymous reporting, so that we can then kind of direct our resources to the right places at the right time. So that's sort of some stuff that we've got ongoing with our partners locally just now.
Thank you very much for that. Gary, would you like to tell us more about the fire and rescue?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. I'm here tonight to present the Station Commander Chris Burns' paper. I'm more than happy to take any questions on that if possible.
Nothing to add. Any
No,
questions for Gary? Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thank you. It's probably a point both for Gary and Susan. And it was just about, I have concerns about a number of vacant properties in Cumbernauld. And obviously we had the fire in Cumbernauld last week as well. And it was just to ask, and I'm happy to pick this up with you both offline, but just what we can do around security and fire safety for these vacant properties.
Yeah, it's no problem. If you want to contact us offline, we can speak about that. Definitely.
Yeah, happy to do so also.
That's
Any
great. Thanks.
questions
And
for
just
Gary's
one more
report?
point, Susan, was just on the ward boundaries, and I don't know, some of my councillor colleagues may have raised this previously, but it appears that the police and the council have different boundaries in terms of wards. I think that, you know, just over 5 years ago, CFAR was added into Ward 4, and I was speaking to one of your community officers at the weekend, and it seems that CFAR is within Ward 3 in terms of policing. It was just to see if there's any feasibility of aligning the boundaries to make things a bit easier.
Are you asking? Sorry, on you go.
Sorry, yeah, that's correct, Councillor. CFAR is within Ward 3. To be honest, it's not something that I can give you an answer for tonight. At tonight's meeting, it would be something that I would really need to kind of pick up with my senior management. I'm not quite sure how easy it would be to align, you know, the kind of boundaries along with kind of council boundaries, but I can certainly look into it and I'll come back to you on that point.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Goldie.
Thanks, Chair. It's really a question for fire and rescue, and it's to see whether they're still getting inquiries from people on the interlinked fire alarms. I have had not much over the last wee while. We got one the other day there. Are the fire service doing inspections to see what's required, and is that the kind of full extent of their input into it now? It's just someone was looking for a bit of advice.
Yeah, well, obviously the initial increase in communication from members of the public has obviously died down about now that it's actually in place. Moving forward, we're still fitting smoke detection into high-risk properties, and if you've got any kind of residents got any concerns, they've just to contact their local fire station.
Councillor McCulloch.
Yeah, it was just a question to the police about the graffiti around the town, particularly on, you know, telecommunications cabinets, etc. A lot of it, you know, focused on football. Is there any coordination of the removal of this graffiti?
Certainly we would deal with any reports of vandalisms too. you know, kind of street furniture, etc. It is something that we look at, you know, as kind of part of our local initiatives. You know, quite often people will use what they kind of refer as tag, you know, and if that's something that's known to us, we would then certainly kind of progress that in that respect. If we do get reports, we can certainly kind of link in with North Lanarkshire Council to try and have that graffiti removed. Is there particular places that you, Councillor, that you've noticed, and I can certainly kind of take that up?
Yeah, I think maybe a drive around. Well, what I'll do is I'll take a drive around the ward and list the places that I can see and pass them to you, and maybe there could be some coordination of the removal or the painting over, and that may be successful now that the football season is, you know, kind of almost over, and maybe the need to you know, paint them has maybe dissipated. Just while I'm in, Chair, I think I should have said earlier in the meeting when you called for apologies that Suzanne MacLeod had asked me to pass her apologies, and I apologise for not giving you that earlier.
All right, because we asked for her to make her presentation and she wasn't here. Okay. Thanks for that. Any other business, folks? No.
Sorry, Chair, Councillor Barclay has her hand up. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Did you? Sorry, Claire, I missed you there.
It's okay, Alec, I was hiding. No, it was just to back up Councillor McCulloch. I'd spoken to John Whittaker in Council about the amount of graffiti. A lot of it's actually sectarian, and it's been somebody who has been driving in cars, not just around Cumbernauld, but they've kind of started and right through the whole of Cumbernauld and other areas, kind of working their way out with. And it's with every single green communications box and some signs that have had the same graffiti. And not being well versed with a lot of this stuff, I wasn't quite as aware of how sectarian some of it actually was. I know when it's blatantly so, but not when it's just certain tags and things. But there is an awful lot of it about, and it's still there, because it was there yesterday. But some of it they're getting round to trying to paint it. So I did have a conversation with John Whittaker at the council about it. So there is something ongoing, but I think it's just whatever it happens, it always seems to be when certain football matches are on the go, it gets absolutely horrific. And there was one a few times that Lisa in the village will be well aware there was you know, if some of these people actually use their artistic talents other ways, by God, you know, it would be great, but there, so be it.
Susan, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, that's certainly not something that's been reported into us, or certainly not anything that I'm aware of, you know, that we've had that kind of spate that appears to be linked. So either councillor, if you can kind of drop me an email just of where a kind of location of where it is, I'll certainly get my team to have a look at it. And I appreciate obviously if it's getting painted over just now, but we can, if there's any inquiry that we can pick up around about it, we certainly will. But at least if we know the locations, particularly for the kind of next football features, I'll then get kind of circulation out to my team to make sure that we're kind of paying extra attention to those areas.
Thank you.
Will do.
Right then, that's it, folks. Sorry, Billy. Billy Lees, you got your hand up? Are you there, Billy? You're on mute.
I'm trying.
Still on mute. That's better.
Aye. Right, I just would like to say, I agree with Claire, it's not just in one part of the town. I was just down at Freedom City Church the other day, and I see their walls are graffitied as well, and it's sort of sectarian as well. So I think we need to look at this, and maybe Susan can have a look at that as well.
Yep, she said she's going to brief her team and be on the go for it. Thanks for that. Well, that's us, folks. Thank you for your attendance, and I look forward to your next meeting. Billy, do you still want to come in?
No, oh, sorry.
Oh, you were just waving goodbye.
You know I'm not used.
I'm
not used to getting in.
I'm going to send you my semaphore flags. There's a thing that shows my age. Good night, folks, and thanks very much for everything.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks,
everyone. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks. Bye bye.